Hey, Chiefs Kingdom, a lot of news and rumors emerging from the NFL Combine, and we'll get to all of that in just a moment. But first, if you're fired up, if you're ready for NFL free agency to finally get here, like this video. The dead period of the offseason is over. Things are starting to ramp up. The Combine's kind of the unofficial start of free agency as agents and coaches start to talk and meet, over a glass of, whiskey on the rocks, late night, people start talking, and, these things kind of start getting in the works. They say, oh, there's no tampering in the NFL. Trust me, there is. Like this video if you're ready for free agency to be here, and we'll go ahead and jump on into today's show. Thanks to all of you for tuning in to today's Chiefs Report. I'm your host, Harrison Graham, and a lot of interesting topics to discuss on today's show. Let's start with kind of the coaching stuff because, a couple weeks ago there was that bombshell report around Eric Bieniemy, the dysfunction, the friction, and Andy Reid had his press conference at the Combine and basically shot all of that down. Dare I say he called it fake. Now, he used the word fabricated, but, it's basically a synonym there. Jesus, I can't talk today. So he was asked about it, obviously, which he should have been, and he basically shot down the idea that there's friction between Bieniemy and the rest of the locker room, said the story was, quote, kind of fabricated. I think the kind of part is interesting, but he basically came out and said, look, we all love Eric Bieniemy. He said he's surprised that he's back because he thought he'd be a head coach by now, but he's certainly happy to have him back in the fold. Here's a direct quote from Andy Reid on Bieniemy. It does surprise me a bit. He's a heck of a football coach. We were on vacation, and over the 2 weeks, I came back, and all of a sudden, it was that I didn't like Eric didn't like me, and Patrick Mahomes and everyone else. That's not the case. We all get along good, and I'm glad he's back with us and rolling. My thought was that he potentially would get a head coaching job, which I would have been happy with too, but that's not the way it worked out. Look, my 2 cents on all this is time will tell if all is well, especially now with Matt Nagy back in the fold, and there's some juicy stuff about him out there as well. We'll get to that in a second, but let's play 4, 5, 6 games next year and see how things are operating. Is it smooth, or is it another choppy start like last year when the Chiefs started 3-4 and things weren't exactly they weren't exactly taking shots together, if you will, chiming their glasses after games. At least it didn't seem that way. So time will tell. I think Eric Bieniemy is a good football coach, but you don't want dysfunction either. So we'll see how this all plays out. Are you excited to have Eric Bieniemy back? Time will tell on that as well for me. Type Y for yes, type N for no. I guess I'm okay with it if Andy Reid signs off and, they're saying that there's no issue. But, let's see where this thing sits in October. I think we'll have a clearer view of how this looks once the season actually gets here. I mentioned we're going to talk about Matt Nagy. Andy Reid, of course, asked about him as well. Quote, it's great to have Matt back. I thought it was important that continuity between Eric, the quarterback coach, the offensive staff. Matt was the logical to do that if he wanted to do that. I didn't know where he'd be after being a head coach, but he was fired up to do it, and Eric was fired up, so I said, let's go. A couple of things that are clear here, and if you guys don't know this, you need to. Andy Reid and Brett Veach love Matt Nagy. Brett Veach and Matt Nagy played college football together at Delaware, okay? Like, these guys have known each other for over 20 years. Andy Reid has had him as an assistant coach going back to his Eagles days. Nagy was under Reid for a decade, both with Philadelphia and Kansas City, before he left the Bears job. And look, I followed Nagy's tenure in Chicago closely. Things did not end well. But from a trust factor, and that's huge in the NFL, these relationships matter. Veach and Andy Reid absolutely trust Matt Nagy. That much I can promise you. What's interesting is it's kind of long-term. How does this look? Because, Andy Reid's not going to coach forever. A lot of people think, maybe Eric Bieniemy would replace him. Well, Albert Breer, a couple of weeks ago, this was before Nagy was announced that he's coming back, had this to say. Among those in the Kansas City organization, Nagy's long been looked at as a prospective successor to Andy Reid, in part of his close relationship with GM Brett Veach. So I'm intrigued by this. Could Matt Nagy, spend the next 2-3 years, maybe Bieniemy leaves after a year, he becomes the OC, kind of learns from his mistakes in Chicago, rebuilds his image, because I think that he has a bit of an image problem in the NFL currently, and replace Reid long-term as the head coach. I think right now that would be way too hard of a sell publicly, but 3-4 years go by, this team wins another Super Bowl. Eric Bieniemy maybe gets a head coach eventually, so that's a kind of a checkbox for the Reid coaching tree. Maybe Andy Reid retires after 2025. Could Nagy get a second chance, and could that second chance be in Kansas City? I think right now you could not sell me on that. But, we'll see what the future holds. He was a very highly respected coach heading to Chicago. He won Coach of the Year his first year, and then things kind of started to unravel. And we've seen, guys, when they get second chances before, really excel. The greatest coach of all time did not work out his first time around. That would be one Bill Belichick. So what do you think? I'm curious where Chiefs Kingdom sits on this one. Would you be open to Nagy replacing Reid long-term as the head coach? Obviously, not in the next year or two, I don't think, but, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. Type 1 for yes, type 2 for no. I'm probably going to make this a poll either on social media or on YouTube community as well. Curious to see where you guys sit on this one. Now, something that's not up for debate is that St. Paddy's Day is a lot of fun because you get to drink beer, and you can get this sweet Patrick Mahomes t-shirt on sale for a limited time only. Chatsports.com/Mahomes green. You got the St. Paddy's theme going, Chiefs logo on the front, Mahomes name and number on the back. It's like $23 right now. It's a great deal. Usually it's over 30. Chatsports.com/Mahomes green. Pick this up today. That way when it ships to you, you'll have it in plenty of time for St. Patrick's Day on the 17th of March. Chatsports.com/Mahomes green. Link in the comments description. Click and shop today and go ahead and check that out. Okay, so coming up next here is Mel Kiper has released his latest mock draft. Obviously, the Chiefs pick at number 30, so I wanted to work that into today's show as well. They select Minnesota kind of outside linebacker, edge rusher, Boye Mafe out of the Golden Gophers there. 30th overall pick. I think he projects as a 4'3" defensive end, 6'3", 255. And he's been a fast riser because in most mocks he has not been going round one. But Kiper did mention him as a guy who's been moving up draft boards, had him as a sleeper first-round guy, and now in his latest mock he's got him as a round one target. Now, obviously, the Chiefs need pass rushers. We all know that. You've got Chris Jones. I don't think Frank Clark's going to be back. Maybe I'm wrong, but we'll see. And then also you've got Melvin Ingram, who's a free agent. So you need defensive ends specifically to get after the quarterback, and Mafe certainly projects to be a guy that can do that. Here's what Kiper had to say on this prospect. I included Mafe on my list of potential first-round sleepers back in October, and he just keeps rising. He finished the season in a sack slump, one in his final 5 games, but he was phenomenal at the Senior Bowl, showing some power and finesse as an edge rusher. 6'3", 255. He can use his get-off speed to fly by tackles. And, look, I think Brett Veach's top focus needs to be at edge. I think this is the biggest need for this team right now. You need legitimate pass rushers off the edge. I think what stood out in the playoffs to me is Joe Burrow was getting sacked a ton by every team in the playoffs except for the Chiefs. They could not get to Joe Burrow consistently. That stood out. If they could have sacked him even just 3 or 4 times, they probably win that game. So you got to get after the quarterback. I think you look at the teams left in the playoffs there, getting after the quarterback was huge. That's something actually Cincinnati did pretty darn well with Trey Hendrickson. So I would like this pick. Maybe it's a little rich for him. I would probably have him as an early mid-second round guy, but I like the positional target from Mel Kiper. More on this in a second and more about the Chiefs defensive line. But subscribe to the channel if you want more draft coverage, mock draft reactions. Like reacting to Mel Kiper's mock, we can certainly do that. Hit that sub button, Chiefs news, rumors, obviously more to come out of the combine leading up to free agency. Hit that big red button. We will have you covered here on the Chiefs Report, so don't miss any of our videos. You look at the defensive line depth chart for Kansas City. Like I said, you've got Chris Jones, Frank Clark. He's probably going to get cut. Melvin Ingram is, we'll see if he's back. Jarran Reed's a free agent. I mean, you need pass rushers. You flat out need pass rushers, and Boye Mafe is a guy that can do that for you. Had 7 sacks last year for Minnesota. The Golden Gophers there. Like Kiper said, kind of finished the year on a sack slump, but got a lot of pressure, forced a fumble. Got better every year, too. He increased his sack number from his freshman year all the way to last year as well. So he's a guy I would certainly be intrigued by, and he could be a guy to watch out for during this week at the NFL Combine. And we'll see what happens there. NFL Draft is always a lot of fun, and the Chiefs need to hit on their first-round pick. Who do you want Kansas City to select at number 30 overall? Let's hear it in the comment section. Maybe you want Mafe, maybe you want Jameson Williams, Chris Olave, someone else. Get your thoughts in on this one and let us know. That's it for today's Chiefs Report. You can give me a follow on Twitter at HGramNFL. DM's always open to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, so hit me up there, and we'll talk to you soon here on the Chiefs Report.